Okay, today we are going to be talking about TaylorMade custom drivers. So if you order a TaylorMade custom driver, there is something that they do during the build process that you probably have no idea about, but is very likely happening to your driver. We're going to talk about what it is, why they do it, and how to figure out if your driver or the driver you're ordering is going to have it. So let's go. Hi everyone, welcome to the Mobile Clubmaker. I'm AJ, I hope you're having a wonderful day. So what is it that TaylorMade is doing with these custom order clubs, with these aftermarket shafts, with these golf shafts in their drivers that they're not telling you about? Well, it has to do with tipping. Specifically, they're tipping, or for a number of years, they have been tipping everything an extra inch. Now, when we're talking about this, we're really focusing on the aftermarket shafts, the upgrade shafts, but really it can be even some of the stock shafts that aren't, as long as they aren't just a made-for type shaft for TaylorMade, because then those are obviously pre-made, pre-cut, everything just for them. But if you're looking at a Fujikura shaft aftermarket, if you're looking at a graphite design shaft, if you're looking for, all the different brands, TaylorMade has had a history of tipping all of them 1 inch. Now, that's the what. The next question is the why. Why are they doing this? Well, in case you don't understand exactly what we're talking about, when we say tipping, tipping basically just refers to any time you cut material from the tip end of the shaft. Tipping is always on the tip end, butt trimming would be on the butt end. And the reason we do it is to make the shaft a little bit stiffer. And I can show you a little demonstration that I did using this shaft. This is just a even flow riptide shaft that came out of a different club. But what I'm going to show you is basically if we measure the stiffness of this shaft at a certain length and we replicate cutting off of the butt end, we get a certain stiffness measurement, a certain frequency. However, if we compare that and cut that same amount off the tip end instead, so in this case, in this experiment, what I did was I marked it off here and I put it into my clamp with the extra bit of shaft hanging off the end. So this extra bit of shaft has no impact on what the shaft does because it's locked in up here. So it basically is just like if I had cut the shaft right here. I take the measurement, I get 275 cycles per minute. Don't worry about the exact number, that's not important. That's based on, again, the length, the head weight that we put on there, different things. But 275. Then I take it out of the clamp and I go and I cut an inch off the tip and I put it back in the clamp. But now this time, when I put it back in the clamp, I'm not putting it hanging off an inch, I put it all the way to the end. So what I've done now is this measurement that I'm about to take is the exact same length of the shaft as it was in the first one. Only in the first one, we had it clamped here and we had extra material on the tip. And the second time, we had it clamped all the way at the end, but we took the material off the tip. And when we do that, we see a CPM, a frequency measurement of 279. So it went up 5. Basically, call that half a flex. We've made it half a flex stiffer by tipping that shaft an inch. Okay, so that's what they do, and that's why they do it, or kind of why they do it, because then the question is, well, why are they doing it? Now, I talked to TaylorMade, or someone at TaylorMade, and I asked sort of these kinds of questions, and the answer I got, and the answer that I've heard other people say they've gotten is, well, TaylorMade says we're following the recommendations of the shaft manufacturers as to how the shaft should be installed. And so you say, well, okay, that sounds reasonable. That sounds like, okay, we'll put it on the shaft, guys. The thing is, TaylorMade is the only brand who does it, right? Callaway doesn't tip all the shafts. Titleist doesn't tip all the shafts. Ping, Srixon, PXG to my knowledge, Cleveland, Cobra. None of them are tipping all of these shafts right out of the gate. None of them do it. But TaylorMade has been tipping everything. So now let me just say, all that being said, I can't really complain or critique it too much because TaylorMade sells a ton of drivers and they've been very popular for a long time. But at the same time, it seems like something that I don't know why they're keeping it a secret, or they're not really telling people about it, because you can run into some issues with it, right? Say you've got a certain graphite design shaft that you like in a Callaway driver, and you want to get the same shaft installed into a new TaylorMade driver. Well, TaylorMade for a number of years would just basically take that shaft, cut an inch off the tip, and install it in the new driver. Now, the difference between the tipped and the untipped shaft, like I showed here, was 5 cycles. Are you going to be able to tell that difference? Some people maybe yes, some people maybe no, but again, it would be nice to know it going into it. Likewise, maybe you go to a fitting and you get fit for a certain shaft in a TaylorMade driver. Well, chances are the shaft that they used in the fitting is not going to be the same tipping that they are doing at TaylorMade in the factory when they're installing and building your new driver. So it's just sort of a weird, cloudy deal that no one really has a good explanation for why they're doing it. But it is something that's been going on for a number of years. Now, it was, again, understood that it was being done, and probably only, 5% of the golfing public knew that it was being done, but you knew it was being done and you could count on it being done. Things get a little bit more hazy now, because it now seems that TaylorMade may be shifting directions again, or shifting directions away from automatically tipping everything. So let me just show you. If I go onto the TaylorMade website and I go to buy a new Stealth driver. So I go to the Stealth driver and I'm going to go down here to customize this club. And you can see here, when we get down here, we get to pick out the head, right-handed or left-handed, the gender, the loft, and we move to the next page and we get to pick out our shaft. Let's just say I want to put a Fujikura Ventus Black 6 in this driver, right? It's a great shaft, very popular. And now down here, if you look, you see tipping adjustment. And if I click on this drop-down menu, I get 5 different options. You see there are 2 what are called soft, 2 that are called firm, and 1 standard. Now, here is how you will be able to tell when you are ordering a club and you're wanting a certain shaft. You will be able to figure out whether they are automatically tipping it or they are not tipping that shaft. Because if you open this drop-down menu and you see 5 different options, that means that they are automatically tipping that shaft. Their standard, quote unquote, is to tip it 1 inch. The reason we know that is because when you look on this drop-down menu, you get the options of having it play softer. What that means is you can see there's a 1/2 inch and a 1 inch soft. So essentially they're, instead of tipping it 1 inch, they're saying, well, we can either just tip it 1/2 inch and it'll play a little softer, or we can just install it straight in with no tipping and have it play even softer, or soft compared to how we would normally install it. Now you also see, instead of that, you could actually go the other direction and have them tip it even more and make it even stiffer, an extra 1/2 inch or an extra 1 inch. Let's say maybe you don't want a Ventus Black, maybe you want a Ventus Red. Okay, we go in, we put in the Ventus Red. So we pick out Ventus, we pick out, let's say, X Flex, we pick out Ventus Red 6, and now we go down to the tipping adjustment drop-down menu. And what you see here is we only have 3 options: a standard, a 1/2 firm, and a 1 inch firm. And what that tells you is this shaft, because it doesn't offer any softer options, that means they aren't tipping it at all. This shaft is actually being installed straight in. So while the black Ventus, and actually also the blue Ventus, if you pick one of those shafts, you will get the 5 drop-down options showing that it is in fact tipped 1 inch as their standard practice. If you go to the red in the same model, in this case, they aren't tipping it at all. Now, where it can get even more confusing is if we look at something like Graphite Design. They've got a bunch of Graphite Design options. If we look at the DI, the Tour AD DI, These have obviously been tipped as the standard procedure, right? You've got the 5 drop downs. Same thing with the XC. These have also been tipped. If you look at the HD, this one, different model. This one has not been tipped. You've got the 3 options. Where it gets really interesting is you go to the IZ shaft, another very popular shaft. And if you pick the 6 or the 7, remember these are the weight classes, 5, 6, 7, 8. Either of those, they've been tipped, right? They've been tipped an inch, and you've got the 5 different options on tipping. But if you go to the 5 weight class, all of a sudden, they're not tipping it. So, same brand, same model, but in this case, just different weight class. You have 2 different methods that they're using for the same shaft model. So not only is it no longer just all the shafts are getting tipped, or, well, all the shafts from certain brands are getting tipped, it's now really completely a case-by-case, a shaft-by-shaft decision from TaylorMade as to whether they are tipping it or not, based on, well, we still don't know what the prerequisite is for tipping it versus not tipping it, but there is clearly something that differentiates what should be and what shouldn't be tipped. But we are not privy to that information. So all this is to say that if you are buying a TaylorMade driver and you are going to be looking at getting one of these aftermarket shafts, I would say you definitely at least want to pay attention to this and make sure you are aware of what's happening with these shafts, especially if you have tried the shafts either in a fitting or if you were at a TaylorMade demo day or all these different things, so that you have an easier time of matching up what that shaft may have been that you hit beforehand with the shaft that you are going to be getting from TaylorMade, and whether or not that shaft will in fact be tipped. If you enjoyed this video, please go down below, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you'll be alerted when I post new videos. You can find me on Instagram at Mobile Club Maker, and we will see you next time.